The journey through the temples has officially begun. How's everyone doing today, guys? My name's T Codes, and this is Amphibia, episode 34, The First Temple. Big episode like this, yeah, you gotta have it be 22 minutes, and yeah, a lot happens in this episode that really interesting, actually. So before I actually watched this episode, I went back and rewatched the what was it, Day at the Aquarium episode, specifically the scene where Andrea showed them the book with the gems and like how they have to charge them each one. And I noticed then under each one there was like a symbol. One was a brain, the other was a heart, and the other was like a fist. So in terms of that, basically these Marcy said that each temple has a trial that has trials that have like a theme to it. And so this first temple they go to is more intelligence. So I was like, okay, so the first temple they're gonna do is Marcy's temple, basically, because again, Marcy's the brains of the group. So I'm guessing Anne is the heart and Sasha is strength, if that's what we're gonna go for. Because looking at what Sasha usually does, she's very active, she's headstrong in some cases, so I can see her having to kind of play as a factor in the final temple. Whether that means she'll have a change of heart or something else, who knows. But yeah, so this first temple, it takes place in this brain forest area, which, so already intelligence is the key in a way. But it's more than just them having to conquer the temple. There obviously is the repercussions of the last episode with Anne and Hop Hop, and that being even though they kind of are, they're not like fully cool with each other. Again, it makes sense because with such a big moment like that, it wouldn't take that in order for them to have to make amends. And that's the thing, like, Anne isn't fully 100% trusting of Hop Pop, even though Hop Pop is trying to volunteer. But at the same time, so basically it just leads to a lot of awkward conversations between the two. And even Marcy's like, what happened? So, and the thing about these trials, though, since it's the intelligence trials, Anne is a little bit concerned about Marcy getting too into the zone. And like, she has examples, like, we do see a few examples of Marcy getting way too caught up in whatever she's doing, and it does lead to some wacky stuff. So, and it kind of does show that in the first trial, so they enter the temple, and Marcy explains how if you fail any of the trials, you're no longer allowed in the temple. So they basically don't want to screw up. So Marcy, so the first challenge is they find this cube in the middle of the room, and then Anne's the one who picks it up, and when she picks it up, a ball suddenly wraps around her and she starts floating in the air. And so Marcy asks Anne to give her the cube, and so she does. And so Marcy then starts levitating, and then she realizes that it's kind of like a Rubik's Cube kind of thing. So but the catch is the Rubik's Cube, like, so the room that they're in is the cube in a way, because every time Marcy moves a part of the cube, shifts the cube, the room shifts. So like, and it's not just like the floor, it's the walls, it's the ceiling, like it literally will like do that. And so the king is kind of freaking out because they're getting flipped around. There's even pieces of the cube that like push out and push in, so like there's part of the room that's trying to crush them, and they're freaking out. They're like, hey, can you at least tell us when you're gonna do something? And so Marcy Marcy eventually solves the cube, thus solving the first trial, and they continue moving on. And yeah. Again, though, Anne and Hop Hop are having their awkward conversations. Polly and Sprig are kind of concerned of what could happen, and this temple, this temple is very Legend of Zelda. I mean, again, it's like not surprising, especially with this season. So I'm not too surprised that these trials that they're going through, especially this one being very brains, you got to be able to solve a Rubik's Cube to start. But the second trial is more straightforward. Like, it's weird. So the second trial they go to is they enter this room and it's platform. There's a bunch of platforms, or like yeah, it's like a grid. There's like a grid. The floor is kind of like a grid. There's red tiles and then there's blue tiles and then there's one green tile, or two green tiles, I should say. Yeah, and so Marcy, like, she tosses a rock on the red tile and it catches on fire, and then she tosses a rock on a blue tile and then a giant hammer comes down and crushes it. So the gang are like, okay, so red lights you on fire, blue crushes you. So, and Marcy basically makes the assumption that green is the safe one, and so she grapples over to the green tile and lands on it, and it's safe. And then she notices that there's another green tile off in the on way far out of reach. So I guess in my opinion, this temple, like, it not only it asks you to have it actually be intelligence, but also requires more than one person, which, again, it's understandable because, I mean, well, the lesson in this temple that comes with it is also, so so Marcy like just asking one of the group to go and land on the green tile, but all four of them are very skeptical because they don't know whether or not it's a trap or not. So Anne and Hop Hop decide to. Well, Hop Hop volunteers to do it, but then Anne says, "No, no, 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 I'll do it." And then the two just continue arguing, and Hop Hop's like, I thought you forgave me about the music box and stuff." And he's like, "Maybe I didn't. I don't know." And so eventually the argument does end with Anne going over, and she nearly gets, like, she lands on the green tile, but then she loses her footing, then falls over, presses the red tile, so then the fire erupts, then it causes her to fall backwards, which causes her to land on the blue tile, thus having a hammer nearly crush her head. But she's able to avoid both and successfully stay on the green tile, and this leads to all the other tiles in the room lighting up green and opening the door. Yeah, very, very straightforward, in my opinion, for the second trial. The third trial, on the other hand, well, actually, no, not even that. Like, so after they clear that room, they then continue walking to find the third trial, and Hop Hop gets to start arguing again, and this is probably one of my favorite running gags of the show right now. Is, so you know how, like, SpongeBob SquarePants, when they have like the title card and then they have the narrator be like 2 hours later or something like that. Well, in this they have title cards, but they don't have like a narrator. It's just more of like a dramatic boom. Like, so this one, it's Anne and Hop Hop. They're arguing, and Sprig and Polly are like, hopefully they'll sort things out eventually. And then they have the title card 1 hour later, and it's like, the start. If I'm walking around a temple for an hour trying to find the next trial, I don't know how I'd feel about that. But eventually they do find the third trial, and it turns out it's right out of Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter movie. It's a giant game of chess, or in this case, Flipfort, which is basically chess in Amphibia, except there's more different types of, like, the pieces are a little bit different. So instead of rooks on each side, the giant towers on each side, it's there are archers. There's obviously you got your bishops, which they let's see, yeah. So basically, all the pieces are, for the most part, the same. And so Marcy just looks and says, okay, so it's a game of chess. And she's like, I got this. And to be fair, she technically did. And of course, the only catch was for this trial, it wasn't like she's playing a game of chess. Like, so the way they did this was, whereas in Harry Potter it was only a giant chessboard. In this, there was a regular sized chessboard, and then down below there was a giant chessboard. And so Marcy, when she was putting pieces on the board, then all of a sudden Sprig, Polly, and Hop Hop were suddenly sucked into the board, and they became part of they became the pieces. Like, so I think Hop Hop became a knight, Sprig I think became a bishop, and Polly became another knight. I think that's what it was. Yeah. And so Anne thinks she's safe because all the pieces are on the board, and Anne doesn't get sucked in. But then, in a funny little twist, she does get sucked in, but it's not on Marcy's side, it's on the opponent's side. So all of a sudden, it's like there's kind of some stakes into this, because Marcy, realizing that this is probably kind of being like destructive chess, knows that if she makes one wrong move, it could possibly lead to Polly, Sprig, Hop Hop, or Anne being killed. So, and it kind of does it does have this little comedic moment with that. So Marcy, for the most part, like, dominates the chessboard, and so it seems like they have the win in the bag. But then turns out she's about to pull off the finishing blow, the like checkmate. But then the king of the opposing team cheats. Like, so Marcy, like, the archer fires a laser at the king, but the king on top of the pedestal literally jumps over the laser and lands, and then just starts moving around, and even like, and so Marcy starts to get frustrated because she's like, oh, this thing cheats, huh? Okay, yeah, I can work with this. And this is then followed by Anne's piece, being forced to go after Hop Hop, and so there's a little bit where you just have Hop Hop, like Marcy's controlling Hop Hop, so she's trying to keep him away from Anne, and you just see Hop Hop screaming while Anne's just coming after him, and putting a couple of blows in too. Like, Hop Hop takes a beating in this episode, and eventually it leads to Anne and Hop Hop finally, Hop Hop asking Anne, like, what does he need? Like, he's freaking out because obviously he's like, again, he thought that Anne forgave him, and he wants her forgiveness. He wants her to trust him again, and so he basically cries out, what does he need to do in order for Anne to forgive him? And Anne finally screams she has no clue. Like, she's like, I don't know. And this actually causes Marcy to stop. Like, she was so focused on the game, but then when Anne screamed that, she actually stopped and looked towards Anne and realized, everything. And so Anne like confesses to Hop Hop that she doesn't know what she wants to do, what she wants Hop Hop to do. She doesn't know what it's going to take. All she knows is that she needs time to figure everything out. She needs the time to let it sink in, figure it out. And yeah, that's the thing with some of this. It doesn't get fixed like that. It takes time. It's hard to accept that sometimes as well. It's, because everything is so quick nowadays. You can order a package and it can come within a day. Like, even for people with that's very impatient. Like, you're trying to watch a video on YouTube, it could possibly buffer, and it's like, you really get frustrated when it's like little things like that. So in reality, there are things that take time to develop, take time to have. It's like an injury. You get injured, you're not going to get healed within a day. You're gonna spend time with it. You're gonna spend time having to adjust to everything, and that's life. So it makes sense that Anne is gonna need to take time in order to fully trust Hop Hop, or to fully forgive Hop Hop. And so Hop Hop needs to accept that, and so does Anne. She needs to know, she needs to understand that and not let it distract her from what she's been trying to do, and that's help the family while also try and find a way to get home. And Marcy realizes in that moment that she basically, and it's kind of, I mean, I get why she did it. Like, she realizes in the moment that she can't risk it. She's basically like, if I mean, to start, Anne has been, like I said, Anne was giving Hop Pop a beating, so Marcy realized that if she continued with the game, Hop Pop or someone else was probably going to get hurt, so she couldn't risk that. So she forfeits the game, and it seems like that's it. It seems like it seems like they lost the trial. The temple is going to keep them out, and all they can do is just leave. And Marcy even says that because she's the one that lost, she is no longer allowed in the temple, but she does apologize to the family, saying that she was so focused on trying to win, she didn't realize that she literally almost got them killed. I got Hop Hop killed, could have gotten anyone else killed, and she just really wanted to help. She wanted to help him she wanted to charge the gem in order to, fix it, and it seems like that's it. It seems like it's gonna end with that, but it doesn't, because they actually reveal that it's more than just about intelligence in this one. So because as they leave the temple, there's these arrows that lead to, this is actually pretty funny. So when they arrived at the temple originally, they Marcy's like, welcome to the temple, and so Sprig, Polly, and Hop Hop and Anne, like, they aren't even looking at the right temple, they're just looking at this outhouse that's right there, and they're like, wow, you really built this up, they're kind of disappointed. And Marcy's like, oh no, that's not the temple. But in funny twist, the arrows, when they leave the temple, lead to the outhouse, and so they open it up, and then they realize this is where they have to go in order to charge the gem. It's like, it turns out that's the charging station that they have to go to. And so they enter the outhouse, and then they see this message that basically says that it's more than just being about intelligence. It's like, when you were given the choice between winning and humility, you chose humility, and that's the other thing. And so basically stating that it takes more, it's like, so based off of these trials, it's going to be obviously two things. So in Marcy's case, it was intelligence and humility, and obviously that being you know when you're going too far, you have to understand, you have humanity in you. And so like she said, she was so caught up in the game, she almost got them killed, and so she realized that and was able to stop it. She saved her friends from having a terrible fate, and so for that, she was willing to forfeit the game. She was willing to give up possibly getting the gem charged to save her friends. And thus, that was the point. That was the point of the whole temple, is you learn that, and that's what makes you worthy, I guess, of getting the charge. And so they do, and this was interesting, was as the gem was charging, the green glow in Marcy's eyes suddenly started to drain. So that gets me wondering if the fact that it wasn't that they were out of energy, it was the fact that the energy went into Marcy, Anne, and Sasha. And that would actually make sense, because, energy is, well, I mean, energy in a gem is like, wait, what? So it would make sense that Anne, Marcy, and Sasha got the powers of the gems, and now that Marcy doesn't have it anymore, I wonder what's gonna happen to her. Like, I mean, granted, I imagine she's still gonna keep her skills and intelligence that she's picked up. I just don't know how much of it was from the gem. I mean, for Anne, the only time we saw her with her with her glow, was when she was fighting the Vegazoid in the first episode of the season, where and in that case, it was more because she cared so much about the family and that she realized that she screwed up and that she had to fix it. So I wonder if. So let's see. We have intelligence and humility was for Marcy. So I wonder if for Anne it would be heart and responsibility, or maybe care. Yeah, something around that line. Because I can see Anne being the one willing to. I haven't gotten to that episode yet. So I'm trying to think ahead with these. So if man, I'm trying to think way too far ahead. So yeah, so basically, yeah, the gem is charged and it actually then lights up, like reveals a bit, then it just emits a beam that points to the next temple. So Marcy basically says that she can triangulate where it possibly is going to lead in order for them to save the trip. So then she asks, like, so do you want to go to the temple right away, or do you want to take a break? And everyone's like, break, please. So in other words, we're going to get, like, a filler. We're going to get some filler episodes in between these, and I guess it makes sense. You don't want to just be like, temple, 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 right? So that's the end of that for them. But not for Newtopia, because we go to Newtopia and apparently King Andreas is being talked to by the bounty hunter lady from that episode with Sasha and Grime, and she's telling him that there is this, like, apparently there's a rebellion, the Toads are, and so basically something's going down that we haven't been seeing. Like, I mean, I imagine the Toads are maybe forming a rebellion. Maybe that's, and maybe there's something else going on. And so Andreas at first seems rather bored, but then he then gets a message about Marcy and getting to the first temple and having the first gem charged. So, and that they know where the second temple is. So basically he is getting excited that they are finally doing this. But then he goes down into the basement, past the spirit thingies from the sleepover and all sleepovers, and then he enters this chamber where he like, it's very technological. He bows down to this giant creature thing with a lot of eyes, and he says, it's like, it's in motion. No, the plan's in motion. We're one step closer to getting our revenge. A lot of questions about that. Like, a part of me is wondering now, what was Andreas's proposition to Marcy at the end of Day of the Aquarium? Because again, like, I mean, in my mind, maybe be like Marcy. I mean, one thing about the shows like this, where, you get transported to a new world, and the longer you're there, the more comfortable you get, the more you like being there, the more you really care about everything. And it's like, because, I mean, you look at Marcy's pretty much having the time of her life in this world, because everywhere she goes, she finds something exciting. She has battled crazy creatures. She has learned so much. She has become such a popular figure, seemingly, in this world. Sasha is also having kind of a time of her life, because she is she's now become a fierce warrior. She was a part of this Toad army, and she even sounds by the sounds of it now is leading this rebellion. So she's having a time of her life in Amphibia. But Anne, on the other hand, she's grown to really connect with a lot of people, but when it comes to talking about home, she kind of does reference home a few times. Like, she talked about her mother in one episode. She talked about why she took Taekwondo, and she's basically having memories of her being at home. So I wonder if the season 2 finale is gonna be the three of them having this ultimatum where Marcy and Sasha probably want to stay, and like Anne's the one who wants to go home, and like they have to fight. Like that would probably be the ultimate tear, is like you have these like, because right now Marcy and Anne are pretty seemingly inseparable, and Sasha's the one that's torn. But man, yeah, that would be interesting because it is that dynamic and like understanding of the three, because again, like they're best friends, but as we saw with Anne and Sasha, there's more. There's something else to it. For Sasha and Anne, it was Sasha kind of being trying to push everyone around, trying to take control of everything. Whereas for Marcy, it's more of just she gets so sucked into things, and she finally feels like she's in a world where she can be something. I mean, in my mind, that's what I've been getting out of her. So a lot of interesting questions for the season, but right now we're at the first temple. It's episode 34, so we have half a dozen left. Or I mean, I say half a dozen, but it's like, you know what I mean. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to subscribe. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. I don't care. You guys do you. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.